Hey my friends, this is the Late Boy Scout, and today I have the pleasure of joining with a handful of other YouTubers in reviewing this knife right here. This is the TLBS XCEST Alpha, or the Cross Country Emergency Support Tool. Today we're going to put this thing through its paces, have a little fun with it, and then I'm going to give you some opinions. Stick around. Now the first thing you should know about the TLBS XCEST Alpha is that this knife is not the only thing you get in the package. You also get a sheath, and I'll show you that in a moment, but you also get a long list of other great survival tools, and I'll list those off for you now and roll in footage of those, since I didn't bring that stuff with me today. You get a survival saw, you get a Lansky sharpener, you get one Ranger band, you get a compass, fishing line, 2 fishing hooks, an offset screwdriver, a P38 can opener, snare wire, an LED light, a sail needle, fire starter, razor blade, snap link, and 2 safety pins. So when you buy this knife, you're actually buying a fairly comprehensive survival or emergency preparedness package, which is a very cool thing. I wish all knives came with all that stuff. Of course, the price would go up if they did. We can talk about the specs on this particular knife. The blade steel is 440C, which is noted right there on the actual blade. And there's a good look at the actual blade shape. You can see there's a fair recurve there at the base of the blade, right there at the bottom, right here, which does nice to kind of lock materials into the blade edge and kind of tear into them. So I don't mind a good recurve as long as I can maintain that edge. You can also see that that tip is extremely obtuse, meaning that I would say that is pretty much an unbreakable tip. I don't know what you could possibly do to ever break the tip on this knife. I don't think you'll ever be able to do it. The thickness of the steel is 3/16, if I'm not mistaken. So that is a fairly thick blade that we have there. Now that's going to give you some extreme strength when it comes to batoning. That is, if you can span the material that you need to baton with that very small blade. And how long is the blade? It's just over 3 inches. So that is a very, very small blade. And again, with 3/16 inch steel on that very short blade, what you've got here is an extremely tough, robust, basically sharpened pry bar. Some people will call this type of a knife. And that's basically what you get with this. You have my micarta handle scales on it, which are extremely comfortable in hand. It is a fairly small handle. I'll definitely admit to that. It comes to the very, very end of the palm of my hand. My last finger is just barely on it. That said, it's very comfortable in hand, given its size. They've also drilled a nice little divot right here, a socket there in the micarta, so that you can use this as a bow drill socket. So if you've built yourself, let's say, a spindle like I did today, with a really nice sharp end here and more obtuse end over here, that's going to go into my fireboard socket, and then my knife will go right up here and act as a socket for that skinny end, reducing friction and helping me to drive all the friction down to this end to hopefully start a fire. Now, I don't know exactly what the coating is that's on this blade. I will tell you that it appears to be very tough. It's kind of an ash gray color, while the micarta is kind of a coyote tan. It's a cool looking combination. I do like it. It's obviously a very extremely tough knife. I will say though that it's going to be difficult to wield in probably the most optimal way to get hard work done, simply because of its small size. You know, it's got some great jimping up here, some good texturing, jimping over here on the bottom. The handle, I would say, is pretty comfortable, pretty darn comfortable for its size. So it's really designed to be an extremely tough knife in a very small package, and I'd say they've accomplished that. One thing I'll say though, because of that broad blade and all the steel that you have out there, the weight is very forward heavy. You can sense that right away when you hold it and try to do some work with it. it wants to chop, and it does an okay job chopping actually for its size. You can choke back on it like this, and whether you're working on spindle or some other, you know, hearthboard or something else that you need for survival purposes or some other extreme emergency purposes, you can actually choke back on that and get some pretty decent chopping done, and I've done that here today. So considering the intended use for this knife, I really don't mind that there's all that weight forward. It does make it a little more awkward, I guess, for doing the carving, sort of the fine work that you might do for other stuff, but it's still quite doable. Now on to the sheath. Tops list this as a ballistic nylon. You can see that there is some MOLLE attachment going on there on the back of the sheath right here. All right, so you can obviously put that on some LBE or something like that, maybe a bag or some other thing that's got MOLLE attachments on it. Also, it's got this big nice clip here on the front that, you know, brings this flap down to cover the knife handle, and that flap is completely removable. So if you don't want to use a flap, there's a little Velcro that opens up right there. Tear it off, close that up, and that's your sheath. Okay, and then that has a little Velcro clasp right here on the handle, retaining it there in the sheath. You've got a little plastic insert that doesn't do much for retention, but does protect the inside of the sheath. Also, it gives you kind of a predictable place for that knife to end up every time you insert it. The sheath also gives you a little pocket right here where you could keep fire starter or a sharpener or something like that. Again, that could be some of the survival kit that that comes with the knife. There are any number of things you could slip down in there to make this a complete kit that you keep on you all the time. It also comes with a little bit of paracord down here that you can easily undo and then wrap around your leg, help to maintain it in the same position every time. The knife does have a lanyard sort of area right here. I'd hesitate to call it a hole because of the way that it's designed. The micarta scales kind of go over the hole, which is obviously in the frame of the knife. So that's kind of a cool innovation right there, and yeah, kudos to Tops for that kind of a design. It's pretty cool. Now, it seems clear to me that the intent with the XCEST Alpha was to build a knife that has extreme capabilities, but not extreme size. And I would say that Tops has definitely accomplished that with the XCEST Alpha. So it's certainly not a knife for every situation and for every type of activity, but it's very, very small and very, very tough, and that could be exactly what you need. Well guys, thanks for watching this review of the Tops XCEST Alpha. You're going to see a handful of other reviews on this blade really, really soon. I'm the Blade Boy Scout. Thanks very much for watching. See you guys later.
Buy my Velcro-backed patches using the links below, and go to BladeHQ for the exclusive Knife Love t-shirt.
It's just got great geometry. I think Doug Ritter is pretty smart about how he designs these knives to be very tough while still very small. Now the sheath for the RSK Mark VI from CRKT is thermoplastic sheath, and I've got no problems with it in its performance.